for the seniors and their families out there, what is like the biggest piece of advice that they can act on in the next week?
I would say, communicate. Communicate with your family and don't over communicate, right? Set aside a time each week, maybe a Sunday night or whatever, where you'll talk college, and then just limit it to that. Don't let it bleed into every part of your life, because this is the last for many families, this is the last long stretch that you'll have with your young person, and they'll go off to college, and then they'll go off to a job, and they might not live at home again. And so, to spend this entire year overly focused on the next step and not being able to appreciate what's right in front of you is a real shame.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Office Hours, where we explore the key trends shaping higher education and what these trends mean for students and families. Today, I sat down with college counselor, entrepreneur, author, and podcaster Brennan Barnard. This is a really wide-ranging conversation. We got into AI and the admissions process, the pros and cons of direct admissions, tips for family communication, and much, much more. This is an episode you're not going to want to miss. So let's jump right in. Hey everyone, my name's Will Geiger, co-founder of Scholarships 360, and I'm here today with Brennan Barnard, really experienced college counselor. One of the reasons I'm excited about this conversation is that Brennan has really extensive experience across a number of different types of institutions and organizations. Welcome, Brennan.
Thank you. Great to be here.
I'd love, Brennan, to hear a little bit about, just like looking on your LinkedIn, you have, number of, different roles at very different types of organizations. I would love, just to share a little bit more about how you're juggling all of that, and maybe, some of the insights that these, different types of organizations have given you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate the opportunity to be involved in a bunch of different initiatives. I've been a high school counselor for about 25 years, and done some work in college admission, and I've been mostly in independent schools. Right now, I'm working with two schools, um, more as a consultant, and that's Conlab School and the Forest School and Acton Academy down in Georgia, and they have an online program too. And then I also do some work with as an advisor for Making Caring Common, which is a project of the Harvard Graduate School of Education, with kind of a mission on how do we raise kids who care about each other and the common good. And there's one angle of that is the admission process and the signals that college admission sends to young people about what matters. And so I'm part of that initiative. And then a lot of my time right now is spent as the director of college counseling for the College Guidance Network, which is an organization really focused on democratizing access to trusted college counseling for students everywhere. And on our platform, we have a AI component, we have the human component, we have a checklist and a roadmap, and some really exciting resources for students and families.
Yeah, no, I love that. Just like knowing the, huge guidance gap in the US, where there's
Mm,
so many students per guidance counselor. I think that's a, really, really worthy initiative, and love the work that College Guidance Network's doing.
thanks.
Um, so one of the things that we're always curious about on this show is myth busting misconceptions about college admissions. I know you literally wrote a book called The Truth About, co-wrote a book
Right.
called The Truth About College Admissions. What are two or three of the things that you find students and parents get the most wrong?
Um, I think it's this approach to it that is kind of a zero sum game, right? And I think that also um, the idea that there's only a handful of schools in this country, or 20, 25 schools that will guarantee success, right? And I think it's important that students and families kind of reframe their approach to college admission, understanding the wealth of schools out there, and how any of those schools could be a great match. I mean, you probably know Jeff Salingo is coming out with a new book called Dream School, and that's really the focus of his book is there are so many schools that could help students get to where they want to be, and to focus on that rather than just kind of this elitism and focus on reputation when it might not be the best match for a student.
Yeah, no, I think that's really great advice for students and to kind of dig a little bit beyond just the brand names and I think have a more sort of thoughtful investigation into, graduation rates, what you're going to study, different types of programs and majors that you might be interested in. That a lot of the research shows is even more impactful than the school you attend.
For
Um,
sure. And yeah, I mean the kind of the idea of high impact practices, right? Like freshman seminars and study abroad and internships and things like that, relationships with professors and opportunities for research. I mean, those are the things that are most predictive of student success. And also a sense of belonging, right? It is important to focus on outcomes and how a school can help you achieve your goals in terms of that, but also if you are at a school where you don't have a sense of belonging and it doesn't feel like a community where you're supported, then you're not going to thrive and you're not going to be able to take advantage of those outcomes.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great point. I mean, at Scholarships 360, we're also like thinking about things from a financial lens as well, and just transferring extra semesters that can be just additional dollars that your family has to pay. So definitely provides like a financial reason for just also being really thoughtful about a place where you feel that sense of belonging.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, on the kind of flip side, I'm curious, what are the misconceptions do you think your colleagues in admissions and in school counseling have about students today?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think there is um, a a a rush to judgment about the way students are interacting with the admission experience, right? And with this kind of idea that students are a monolith and that um, there's one way they're thinking about college or approaching the use of technology or those kinds of things. And I think we need to really expand how we um, how we reach out to students and how we meet students where they are, and how can we make the college admission application process experience more adaptive and allow students to share their voice in ways that is more authentic to them. And so I think sometimes we kind of impose our adult perspectives and approaches to a 17-year-old, and that's not always the most effective way to approach it. And so I think the more we can listen to students and like I said, meet them where they are, the better.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. I don't know. I mean, I filled out my college applications. It was pen and paper. So even just
Sure.
we're thinking about things at Scholarships 360. I think it's great. We have some folks who are just out of college who work for us, and I think that's you know great. Also a great way to get insights into how younger people are thinking. But to your point, they're not a monolith, and I think sometimes in admissions we think about things in terms of groups. I was just talking to someone about like rural admissions. And
Right.
even with that, it's like it's not like all rural students have the same experience. It's not a monolithic group. Every student, different parts of the country, very 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 different experiences. So it's a tricky balance.
Yeah. Different family circumstances, different needs, different kind of concerns. So it's tough to be everything to everyone, but I think we just really need to focus on kind of a wider lens.
Yeah. And I think that's we know you were talking about the use of AI.
Mm.
And you're working on that College Guidance Network. And on the college side, I think that offers a really interesting opportunity for, more personalization, meeting students where they are, making the college really relevant to them in a way that just like, the back in the day when just sent out a brochure, the same brochure to every student, you're trying to be like everything to every student. There's a lot more opportunity to use data to personalize. And I'm kind of
For sure.
curious on the college side, what are some like novel applications of AI that you're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because the podcast that my co-author Rick Clark and I do, we just for the beginning of the season, we just interviewed Juan Espinoza, who's the VP at Virginia Tech, and they've started using AI as a second reader to review essays. And I think that's a great use case. And there's been a bunch of research about it, both at Virginia Tech over the last like 3 or 4 years, and kind of in the larger context, Angela Duckworth at University of Pennsylvania and her colleagues were doing some research into using AI to identify character traits in essays and things like that. And I think the use of AI in those kinds of circumstances with a human in the loop, and it offers the opportunity to save immense amount of time and resources that can then be redirected, ideally, to the more human interaction with students. So instead of people sitting in their offices or living rooms and reading essays for hours on end, you know, if that time can be spent counseling a student or reaching out to a new community or doing something like that, that's great. I also hope that that AI will eliminate the need for kind of self-reported grades. That AI will be refined enough to take a transcript and scrub it for the information that a college needs, and automatically upload that into a application rather than using the self-reported academic record and things like that. That just ends up being another hoop for students to jump through at what can be a stressful time for them.
Yeah. Also, depending on the college, some admissions officers, where I remember at Kenyon, we would recalculate every GPA and just having this like Excel sheet on my second monitor. And just for every single student,
Right.
we would just take it was only certain classes. And we'd have to plug everything in. And that took up so much time that definitely could be better used to,
Totally.
to your point, like reaching out to students, just that more personal. And for admissions officers, you're not going into that to be, using Excel all day in that
No.
capacity. You're looking for
No.
connections.
Absolutely.
And that's very cool about Virginia Tech. I didn't realize that, and think that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
I think how do you think about the one of the I think critiques of AI can just be around like ensuring like equity and consistency and review and bias. I have some thoughts on that, but just curious how you think about that.
Yeah. I mean, I I don't think there's any more bias than is natural in in humans, right? Like, I actually think some of the studies have shown, and some of the Virginia Tech's research and other research, like I was mentioning with UPenn, has showed there's less bias, right? In terms of reading essays and things like that. I mean, there's long been the issue of kind of a if admission officer on a cloudy day might rate a essay differently than they would on a sunny day, or if they read it in the morning before they've had their coffee or after lunch, or and there's this kind of personal bias that comes in based on all kinds of other factors. And so in a lot of ways AI eliminates that if trained properly, right? I mean, and that's the key. I mean, there's also been a lot of information out there about AI and how it is inherently biased because it's trained on large language models that are heavily influenced by certain demographics and things like that. And so um, I think as long as the training is done well, I think it can remove a lot of that bias. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. And I mean, like what we've done at College Guidance Network, for example, in training our chatbot is instead of training it on, you know, all the garbage out there on the internet, on College Confidential and Reddit threads and things like that, we've trained it on over 400 experts in college admission deans and counselors and other folks who know what know what they're talking about and have been doing this in counseling students for ages. And so it's trained on that, and so it's not it eliminates the misinformation.
Yeah, I think that's a great takeaway for students and families, just being really savvy about where you're getting information from.
Mm.
And I think, yeah, when you look at some of the research about like, with the ChatGPT or whatever, a lot of it is from, Reddit. And that's like a really, really big source, which is not necessarily like a bad thing, but just when you think about all the different like opinions and you don't know who these folks are, versus you're people who have experience and are actually practitioners, when you're making like a very, very big, important, costly life decision. I think
Yeah,
that's
I would posit that it is a bad thing, but we, yeah, I'm not sure that Reddit is the best place to be kind of gathering information from. So.
I guess that kind of leads to a question about the student side. Like, sounds like College Guidance Network is, a resource that's AI powered for, looking, getting, questions answered, particularly for students who, maybe they, I'm a first gen student who are, first gen, don't have, folks in their household, or maybe you're attending schools without a ton of, college specific support. Um, where are you seeing the other opportunities for students to leverage AI in their admissions process in a really like healthy, productive way?
I mean, I think it's great for building college lists. I think there's some great prompts that you can use to help you identify schools that might be a good fit for you, and to really dig in. And as with anything in admission and also on the internet, like it's kind of that trust but verify, right? I mean, so you can one of the examples I like to use is like, say you really want to study psychology, but you're really interested in like animal behavior and these things. Like it's hard to find information on which schools have animal behavior labs, but AI can get that information pretty quickly. And some of the schools have since done away with them, and so you have to verify it. But like that kind of things where it can really dial in on the information you're seeking. Is great. I mean, I think it's a great kind of leveling function for essays, for helping students brainstorm, and kind of the bookends of the essay review process or an essay writing process of kind of brainstorming and review, and helping you kind of have a dialogue about what you might write about, and then once you've written it, um, doing some review and helping you kind of proofread and get feedback. So I mean, like for for Ava, for the CGN's AI, it's translated into 9 different languages and adding new ones all the time. And so I mean, it's um, that's the kind of thing where hopefully it's increasing access to that kind of support.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really, really great point. I think for list building, I think that's something where that is just such an important part of the process, and maybe can help students learn about schools that perhaps they weren't otherwise considering, which I just love. I know, as a college counselor, I definitely would have been a great thing, just as I was
Yeah.
brainstorming for my advisees. And then definitely on the essay writing process, I think that's a really great point, for students, thinking
And
about the bookends.
Yeah, and even on the decision-making process, Jeff Neal, who's at the American School in Sao Paulo, graded, is he's really dug into the AI world and has developed some great prompts. And he's developed a prompt that helps students, once they've narrowed down to 2 or 3 colleges that they're trying to decide between, kind of putting those comparing those schools to each other and really digging into what are some of the nuances between the pros and the cons and how that might fit what you're looking for. So I
Oh,
mean, I
cool.
think there's some great use cases like that.
Yeah. Oh, cool. We'll have to drop Jeff in the show notes. I'm on his a newsletter, which is great.
Yeah, and I wrote a piece for Forbes about using AI to make your college decision, and I quoted him and put his prompt in there. So maybe you can grab that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's really helpful for students just who might not know where to get started. And I think that's just like with any tool, like having some, really strong, like solid prompts that are thoughtful. Like that's a great thing to just like begin that conversation. Just I like you use the word dialogue, and I think it's something that it does. You need to go deeper. You need to be, providing more information, and it's not just going to get you from A to B immediately. It's going to be a little bit of a process, and you need to be
Right.
engaged. Um, to switch gears a little bit, I know in addition to AI, I think one of the other big like trends that I'm always seeing on my like LinkedIn feed and on the news is direct admissions. Can
Mm.
curious your take on direct admissions? Is this a fad? Does this represent like an actual like shift in how the admissions marketplace operates? Maybe somewhere in between.
I mean, it's definitely growing, and obviously, it's growing in a certain kind of sector of schools, more schools with open admission, right? And I think it can be a compelling way. I mean, Common App has done some pilots with it at making caring common. We collaborated with Common App, and now with Tennessee, and are looking at how that can be used effectively to increase the college going culture. Um, I think it's only really beneficial if it's matched with a financial package. I mean, you're from Scholarships 360, right? I mean, so if unless a student can see how that offer of admission is going to be affordable for them and their family, it's a non-starter. And so I think I think it's definitely there's a positive there. I mean, we're only going to see it. We're not going to see it among selective schools and things like that. But I think there's a place for it, and it remains to be seen. Kind of how it will. I mean, from what I understand, some of the studies have shown it definitely has increased applications. The question is, will they convert, and will they enroll, and will they yield those students? And so I think I applaud the efforts, and I think it's a kind of wait and see right now.
Yeah, I think and it's a great call about the sort of affordability scholarship piece. I think that's I've been kind of most curious to track just because I think it's that's just a great way for increasing transparency at schools where the types of schools that are doing direct admissions where they probably are awarding scholarships in a very predictable way. And that's like great that students can sort of like understand like the scholarship discount earlier on in the process, which I think is just great for students and families as consumers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're getting to a little bit more of like the rapid fire part of this, Brennan. Uh, question I like to ask everyone: what is the one tool or resource you're recommending to students the most?
Well, I mean, CGN, of course. But if you go outside of that, um, uh, I love Loper. I don't know if you know Loper very well, but they have a great app that is kind of helps students identify and match with schools, and I love it because it focuses on the characteristics of the school and not the name of the school. Like it won't actually reveal the name of the school until you've kind of identified what is interesting to you about that certain school, and so that's a great tool.
Yeah,
That's
no, I
one of
love
the ones
that.
yeah.
Yeah, we started, my wife and I started watching Love is Blind UK last night. So a little bit of like,
Nice
yeah, blind
match.
dating
Yeah,
for
yeah, right.
colleges.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Yeah, we'll definitely include yeah, familiar with them. Definitely include a link to obviously CGN and Loper. Um, it's September for the seniors and their families out there. What is like the biggest piece of advice that for them that they can act on in the next week?
I would say communicate. Communicate with your family. I mean, and don't over communicate, right? Set aside a time every week now that you're a senior and you're applying to college. Set aside a time each week, maybe a Sunday night or whatever, where you'll talk college, and then just limit it to that, right? And don't let it bleed into every part of your life, because this is the last, for many families, this is the last kind of long stretch that you'll have with your young person, right? And they'll go off to college, and then they'll go off to a job, and they might not live at home again. And so, to spend this entire year um, overly focused on the next step and not being able to appreciate what's right in front of you is a real shame. And it's also just the importance of communicating and avoiding kind of stress and heartbreak and disappointment down the road, when either something it's clear that something's not affordable and you're going to have to make a tough decision, or that you weren't about to let your student move all the way across the country, yet you let them apply there and didn't have that conversation on the front end. I think those are all really important. It's an important dialogue to have as a family.
Yeah, no, that was always on the. I remember when I was at Kenyon serving on merit scholarship appeals committee, and it's always the toughest conversations when it was folks who like definitely did not do the net price calculator. Their child applied, got in, and there's just like literally nothing we
Right.
could do. And they were on campus. It was April. They were so set on it, and you could just like just it was just very very heartbreaking. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, something that probably could have been avoided just with tougher
100%.
conversations earlier on.
100%.
Um, so for our last question, I really liked you referenced Jeff Slingo's new book, Dream School, which I'll definitely include in the show notes as well, and just how there's many there's many pathways to a successful life, a successful college process. As you think about this with all of your experience as a counselor, parent, what is your greatest hope for students and families in the admissions process?
That they won't lose perspective, right? Um, life is complicated and nuanced and goes well beyond um, any one college, and so to overly focus on that, I think is a real shame. And I think it can be a great opportunity, it can be a great experience, but this did. I hope that families will step back and have conversations about what does success mean, and why are you going to college, and what do you want out of this experience, and what do you want for your future, and who do you want to be, and those things, and talk about values, and not just um you know like this idea that if you can just get into this school or that school or this tier of schools, then everything will be all right. I think acknowledging that it is a journey and that it is winding. My own daughter just transferred. She went to a school her first year and just wasn't the best fit. I mean, she was fine there, but wanted to study different things and wanted a different experience. And she transferred, and she's 2 weeks in, but she's thriving. And so, I mean, I think this idea that this doesn't have to be a linear experience. That there's as long as you're open and have perspective and willing to pivot, I think it's all going to work out.
I think that's great advice for college and just for life. Just looking at how quickly things are changing in the world of work. I think that mindset will serve students really really well. Um, Well, thanks so much, Brennan, for joining us. I'm curious, where can folks find you afterwards? I know you mentioned, doing some writing, your podcast.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. It's an interesting question because I'm now I'm kind of on the road. I'm a digital nomad. My daughter calls me Nomad Dad. And uh, but they can find me. I've been writing a Substack called The Application Trail. So you can find me there, and that's I post pretty recently or pretty regularly on there. I do some writing for Forbes. They can find me at CGN, of course, hosting webinars and that are free and open to anyone. So they can find me there and LinkedIn and all those places.
Awesome. Well, thanks again so much for the time, Brennan, and hope you have a great rest of the day.
Yeah, great to be with you. Thanks.
Thanks everyone for tuning in to another episode of Office Hours with Will Geiger. If you're a student or parent, don't forget to check out app.scholarships360.org, where you can sign up for our free scholarship matching platform. For colleges, we've got solutions to make your work easier, which you can check out at connect.scholarships360.org. And one last thing, if you or someone you know would make a great guest on the show, I'd love to hear from you. You can always reach me by email or on LinkedIn. Until next time, thanks again for listening.